Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. As we've been doing for quite some time, we're going to start off this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance and the United States National Anthem. I would ask everyone now to please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
America's finest, the United States Army Barbershop Quartet, performing at the Barbershop Quartet Convention in 2015. I play this video as often as I possibly can on this show every day to pay tribute to our armed forces who put their lives in harm's way every day for each and every one of us. Thousands upon thousands of men and women throughout the world, here in this country and our allies in other countries around the globe. May God bless these men and women. God bless you all, that you may all return home safely to your families when your tours of duty end. We appreciate each and every one of you and thank you all for your service. God bless you all. I do this all the time. I mean it. I want them to mean it. I want them to know how much we love and care for them. I'm going to be quite frank with you all now. I was going to talk about this later, but I'm going to talk about it right now. There are two things that are going to happen. Which is going to happen first? It's not the chicken or the egg. Are we going to have a civil war here in the United States? Or are we first going to see World War III? I don't know. I'm asking all of you the same question. I want to show you a letter from Greg Abbott. Then we will talk about what is going on in Texas. The federal government, this is a letter from Greg Abbott yesterday. He says, the federal government has broken the compact between the United States and the states. The executive branch of the United States has a constitutional duty to enforce federal laws pertaining to the states. I will preface that by saying the United States federal government has an obligation to protect individual citizens, and it's failing to do it. The U.S. has a constitutional right and a duty to enforce federal laws protecting the states, including immigration laws on the books right now. President Biden has refused to enforce these laws and has, in fact, himself violated them. The result is that he has smashed records for illegal immigrants in this country since he took office, despite having been put on notice in a series of letters, one of which I delivered by hand. President Biden has ignored Texas's demand that he perform his constitutional duties. President Biden has violated his oath of office to faithfully execute immigration laws enacted by Congress instead of prosecuting immigrants for the violation of crimes of illegal entry. President Biden has sent lawyers into federal courts to sue Texas for taking action to secure the border. President Biden has instructed his agencies to ignore federal statutes that mandate the detention of illegal immigrants. The effect is to illegally allow them and in mass parole into the United States. By wasting taxpayer dollars to tear up Texas border security infrastructure, President Biden has enticed illegal immigrants away from the 28 legal ports of entry along Texas's southern border, the border bridges where nobody drowns, and forced illegal immigrants into the dangerous waters of the Rio Grande. Under President Biden's lawless border policies, more than 6 million illegal immigrants have crossed our border in just 2 years' time. That is more than the population of 33 different states in this country. This illegal refusal to protect the states and its citizens has inflicted unprecedented harm on the people all across the United States. James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and other visionaries who wrote the U.S. Constitution foresaw that the states should not be left to the mercy of a lawless president who does nothing to stop external threats like cartels smuggling millions of illegal immigrants across this border. That is why the framers included both Article 4, Section 4, which promises that the federal government shall protect each state against invasion, and Article 1, Clause 3, which acknowledges the state's sovereign interest in protecting their borders. Arizona versus the United States, U.S. Code, Section 567, Section 387, and 419. Failure of the Biden administration to fulfill the duties imposed by Article 4, Section 4, has triggered Article 1 and 10, Clause 3, which reserves this state the right of self-defense. For these reasons have I declared an invasion under Article 1 and 10, Clause 3, to invoke Texas's constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. That authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statutes to this country. The authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statute of this country. The Texas National Guard, the Texas Department of Public Safety, and other Texas personnel and other states' personnel that other states have sent the state of Texas, acting on that authority as well as by state law to secure the Texas border. Signed, Greg Abbott, Governor of Texas. I stand by that same letter that he sent out yesterday. I stand by that. And I believe that every state will also stand by that letter as well. Are we going to have a civil war here in the United States between Biden mercenaries sent out to try to corral all of us and do their dirty work? Are we going to see World War III around the globe? Which is going to happen first? We here in the United States cannot continue living like we're living. What Biden has done has caused inflation to rise. What Biden is continuing to do is not mandating a federal structure for this country. Again, for the third time so far since October, the United States of America has almost shut down. We enacted the third rescue just days ago because Biden refuses to make a mandate, a constitutional mandate, about what we're going to do here in the United States. And Congress continues to put out a temporary fix because Biden refuses to do it. And Biden took that temporary fix and signed it also into law for another 3 months until June. I think it's until April. Is Biden going to come to his senses and make sure our country is protected? Or are we going to see a civil war? We have millions of people around this country ready to protect this country. We have illegal immigrants in all of our states. Those illegal immigrants must be deported. And if it's my will, they should be deported immediately. I don't think that's going to happen. More and more of these illegal immigrants are crossing the border. 6 million in the last 2 years that we know about. 6 million in the last 2 years that we know about. Those are the gotchas. Those are the ones that Border Patrol and the state of Texas has caught. But because of this president refusing to do his job, those immigrants are caught, documented, and sent out into this country. We have illegal immigrants that are now licensed drivers here in the United States. Illegal immigrants. Joseph Biden has given them authority to vote in order to keep the Democrat Communist Party in power. I hope it turns and bites him in the ass. Excuse my French. I am pissed, as many of you also are. And you should be. You should be. Karen from Pennsylvania says, my family is in Texas, and I belong there. Not me. PA is ready, believe me. Many of Trump's signs already are out. Save our country. Save our country. Biden continues to give these illegals, and even those that are not caught, that make it to the interior of this country, he continues to give them free ride and pay them to be here. Taking our Social Security money, taking every dime of money that this country has, giving them free ride, giving them lodging to be here in this country, giving them money to buy automobiles. Many of these undocumented people don't have licenses. Some of them do. Many of them don't have insurance, and they'll never get it. They'll drive until they cause accidents, injuring and killing citizens of this country. I stand with Texas. I stand with Texas. We must stand for each other. I stand with each and every state here in this country. I stand with the other countries of the world. Illegal immigrants are in every country around this globe, taxing our countries, putting our own citizens out on the street. It's got to come to a screeching halt. It must come to a screeching halt. Now, last night, the San Andreas Fault near San Bernardino, California, had a 4.5 earthquake. An earthquake watch issued by the Southern California Weather Force of www.weathersocal.com. I'm also issuing another earthquake watch from now until February 8th. Now until February 8th. Folks, I want to play for you breaking news from Fox 11 in Los Angeles. This is last night just after 7 p.m.
We begin with breaking news. Did you feel it? A magnitude 4.2 earthquake hitting about a mile west of San Bernardino tonight at 7:43. LA City Fire finding no significant damage or injuries. The earthquake felt as far north as the Antelope Valley, as far east as Indio, along the coast from the U.S.-Mexico border to Malibu. Quake startling two cats near UC Riverside. Look at this. Shannon Molina sending us this video of her cats, Loki and Marley, waking up. Earthquake expert Lucy Jones says this is the second magnitude 4.2 earthquake to strike the San Bernardino area in the past 20 days. First occurred on January 5th. Jones tweeted that the two quakes did not have an obvious correlation. Now,
Lucy Jones said those quakes did not have an obvious correlation. What a piece of work she is. Folks, these quakes do have a correlation. This is a second 4.5. They reduced the magnitude of that quake to 4.2. That was at least a 4.5. Felt reports went over 13,000 last night. Over 13,000 people felt that quake. Folks, I don't believe it's over. I do not believe it's over. Again, I have instituted on this program, Southern California must be under an earthquake watch. It's on the most dangerous earthquake fault in Southern California. Scientists have already stated that the Southern San Andreas Fault is the most dangerous fault in the world. It's over 232 years since it last got us. 232 years since it last hit. Folks, it could hit any day. Yes, some scientists believe that it could hit any day, any month, any year. It's true. However, when we continue to have 4.5 activity, moderate 4.5 earthquakes here in this same area, it is not releasing energy. It is not releasing energy. These moderate earthquakes are a call to action, a call for everyone to wake up. They downgraded to 4.2 because they're too stupid. They are too stupid to tell people exactly what's going on. They want everybody to ignore the basic fact. The fact of the matter that people's lives are in danger. People's lives are in danger. For this reason, I'm going along with the Southern California Weather Force and issuing an earthquake watch for all of Southern California. There is a very strong chance that this larger earthquake will occur on the San Andreas or the San Jacinto Fault Zone. The San Andreas or the San Jacinto Fault Zone. We've told everybody where that is. The San Jacinto Fault Zone runs from the San Jacinto area all the way down to the western side of the Salton Sea. The San Andreas Fault runs from the very northern part of California, where there is a junction of 3 different fault zones. The San Andreas, the Cascadia Megathrust Earthquake Zone, and the Gorda Escarpment. Back in 1989, we had a 6.9 earthquake on the Hayward Fault, just west of the San Francisco Bay. That earthquake collapsed the Bay Bridge and did billions of dollars of damage to the San Francisco area. The southern San Andreas Fault can cause billions of dollars in damage when it goes. And it's going to go. It will go. At 10:55 a.m., we reported on this on January 5th, 2024. Another 4.5 earthquake hit in that same area. Along with this earthquake, they downgraded them to a 4.2. It should never happen. This area last shook with a foreshock in the 1970s, which is what this may be, a foreshock. Last night at 7:43 p.m., we had another foreshock in that same area, a bit southeast of it on the junction point. The timing was off, but the prediction remains the same. We're due to have a major earthquake in Southern California. We've talked about this on many occasions. We continue to show seismic energy all over Southern California. We showed it to you on Tuesday this week. USGS and Caltech continue to not allow people to see what is going on in Southern California. The USGS maps show literally nothing. Nothing. Yet the seismograms tell a different story. Currently, no aftershocks to this quake have been recorded. This means we may very well have a foreshock on our hands, which means a foreshock before the main shock. You can think of it as you holding onto a ledge with your fingertips. And when your finger slips, your body gets a jolt, as if you may be falling deep, deep into a crevasse. You'll still have the rest of your hand left before you finally let go and slip completely. That is our analogy of a foreshock. If this was a foreshock, we only have a short time period before we see the main shock, and it's coming. A larger earthquake on the San Andreas or on the San Jacinto Fault will rip northwestward through the Inland Empire and high up into the high desert zones. Los Angeles, all the way up into the Antelope Valley and into the Kern County areas, along with the Ventura County area as well. Should it break the entire fault southward, you will have Big Bear, Banning, Coachella Valley, Imperial Valley, and San Diego in its crosshairs. Ladies and gentlemen, it is better to be safe than sorry. Again, I want to reiterate, we are asking you to have an emergency plan. We have talked a lot about emergency plans. Tomorrow night we're going to talk about emergency plans and emergency kits. You need to have an emergency kit, regardless whether you use it for an earthquake, a fire, a flood, or any other kind of emergency. You must have an emergency plan, and you must have an emergency kit. These two procedures are non-negotiable. If you plan on being alive after the next major event happens, you have to have a plan. You have to have a way to approach the emergency. Without it, you're just throwing crap at the wall and hoping it sticks. You've got to keep in mind that after a major earthquake, all cell phone towers are going to be jammed. What have we talked about when it comes to cell phone towers? Stay off your phones unless you have an emergency. Let the emergency first responders, the police, the sheriffs, the fire department, and paramedics have that bandwidth. Without it, they cannot help you or anyone else. You will not be able to get through to anyone. If you want to use text, do so. It is a proven fact now that text messages still get through when the cell towers are down. Only use text messaging to speak with your family members. And I know that's hard. I know that's very hard. But folks, you have an obligation to the rest of the neighbors and citizens in your area to allow fire, medical, and police to have the bandwidth necessary to come to your aid. A plan, an emergency plan. What happens when you're separated from your family? We talked about this. You need to have a plan, a written plan that everybody knows and has read and has had explained to them. Your children, your closest loved ones need to know what your plan is and where you plan on meeting them or them meeting you to get back together. You need to have a plan. You need to make an emergency supply kit. You need to have a supply kit, food and water, and an emergency first aid kit. Food and water for not just several days, but several weeks. The last earthquake that we had in Southern California that did a lot of damage, 1994, Northridge. It was weeks before the utilities, the water and power, were restored to the citizenry in Los Angeles. Weeks, not days. You need to have an emergency supply kit of food and water and a first aid kit to get you through for not just days but weeks. And it just might be that. Each one of us has an obligation to help each other. And I've been preaching this for years now. You all need to have a flashlight, a headlamp of some kind, even a battery-powered lantern or a solar-powered lantern, a fire extinguisher, and even a whistle to put out fires, or the whistle to save your voice, to allow other people to find you if you're trapped. We've talked about this and a lot more. We're going to talk about it a lot more tomorrow night. But I don't want to lose anyone. I've also spoken about that. That is why Emergency Management Associates here. It's not just for emergency managers. It's for everyone. We talk about emergency situations all the time. We talk about emergency preparedness for a reason. We are trying to save lives here. We're trying to save lives. Shannon Van Dusen's here in the chat saying it's sickening really. Help people help themselves. Give them a chance to prepare. That is the least that we can do. That's what I have been talking about for years. We're going to continue to talk about this for time in memoriam, because a lot of people do not listen. That's why we keep talking about it. I have people that tell me, Ron, why are you still harping on this? I'm harping on it because people are not listening. I've told this story before and I'm going to tell you again. Back in about 2012, 2013, FEMA sent out a questionnaire to all emergency managers, asking all emergency managers around the United States if we each had a 72-hour kit. At the time, they were still asking then for everybody to have an emergency kit, a 72-hour kit, to get them by for 3 days. 3 days. They're still talking about 72-hour kits, but now they're talking about emergency preparedness kits that will get you through for 3 weeks to 3 months. And I'm saying the same thing. Back in 2012, 2013, months went by, and FEMA released the results of their survey. Only less than 25% of emergency managers around the United States had 72-hour kits. Less than 25%. If FEMA cannot get even 25% of emergency managers to have an emergency preparedness kit, why do I think that anybody here will even have an emergency preparedness kit? I know some of you have and are still working on it. I'm asking you to continue to work on it until you have a full-blown kit to get you through the early hours, days, and weeks of a disaster. It's coming. I promise you it's coming. If it's not going to be an earthquake, it's going to be war on our own soil. War over in England. A British general this week called for the British people to prepare for war in Britain. A British general asked everybody in England and the British Isles to prepare for war on their soil. It's coming. It is coming. Miss Elise says here in the chat, the chaos factor of people is a greater threat, and the government knows that. The government knows that. Tomorrow, we're going to take this into consideration. I have a lot of things I want to discuss tonight before the time steals away from us. But I want to make sure that everybody knows how serious this is. Okay? President Putin over in Russia, he knows what an idiot we have in Washington, D.C. He knows. And he knows unless things change, that the United States will be the next target. He and his generals have said as much. Yes, I have seen his latest video, both he and one of his generals that put out this past week. Other countries know as well. The United States of America and Britain were considered to be a stronghold of the world. Britain and the United States were considered to be a stronghold of the world, an example to every country within the world, on the earth. Folks, we must gain control of ourselves, our families, our neighbors, and our friends. I'm not telling you to take control of their lives, but I'm asking you to help them be prepared. Canadian Patriot One, my buddy Dave in England, or not England, in Canada. Sorry, Dave, you're in Canada, I know that. He says the British will be handing out weapons to the public. The British will be handing out weapons to the public. That is exactly what Sweden will do as well. How do I know? Because I know a lot of people in Sweden. I used to live there. They're already doing that. By the way, yesterday Sweden was allowed entrance into NATO. Sweden is now fully matured within NATO. We have a lot of other countries that stand with the United States. That is one reason that I played the national anthem for all of you every day here on this air. We're not the only nation in the world. We have other people standing with us. This program is an international program, not just for the United States. We're trying to get out the information. That's why we're here. Demon Catman is in the chat. One of my best friends and one of our mods. They seriously need applicants for all British military, as numbers are low. And that goes for the United States. The United States is one iota away from instituted draft. To draft men and women into the military. One reason they are pushing this, no weapons allowed in Canada. No weapons allowed in Britain. They are begging people to join the military in Britain and in Canada and in the United States. In the United States, we used to be one of the most powerful militaries in the world. We were until this president got here into office. Now, military members have left the military because this dirtbag president, yes, I'm calling a spade a spade. Some people don't like me to refer to him as that. I'm calling a spade a spade. Sorry. I don't want to hurt or insult any of you, but it's a fact. It is a fact. We must get someone in office and in office ASAP in order to turn this country around. And the same thing in Canada. They're in the same boat that the United States is in. Prime Minister Trudeau is an idiot. He is a stupid fool. I'm not insulting the Canadian people. I'm insulting the man. Because he has let his country go to pot. Miss Elise here in the chat says, It's all newbies in the military now. People will freeze or run when the fighting starts. Yeah, folks, that's exactly what's going to happen. We need trained citizens that are going to stand up for what is real and what is right. Trained citizens that are going to go to battle, not just to save their lives, but to save their countries. That's a fact. That's a fact you can take to the bank. Now, I want to talk about earthquakes. I want to get to New Madrid fault tonight. We are going to talk about the New Madrid fault tonight. I have data from last night. I have data from today. We're going to air it here. It's important. It's important we understand what is going on, regardless of what the USGS puts out. They continue to run every country into the ground. They continue to put up false information, or shall I say, not put out any information, or very little. They have no clue. They have no clue. As you can see on this map, I have one day 2.5 magnitude and above. It's set for auto update. However, I had this set there it is. I've had it set before for one day all magnitudes. One day all magnitudes. Right now, today, this minute, the USGS is saying there are 303 earthquakes worldwide. I guarantee you there are over 900 earthquakes worldwide. Why? Because they are not putting out accurate information. These earthquakes here in the Western Pacific are fallible. They're fallible. There are over 20 earthquakes right now in Indonesia. What are they saying? They're looking at 4 earthquakes in Indonesia. The large earthquake here, Ruteng, Indonesia. This is a very large earthquake, a 5.6 earthquake, 27 kilometers deep. This earthquake over here in Kimbe, Papua, Indonesia. Actually, Kimbe, Papua New Guinea, I'm sorry. This is a 5.1. A 5.1. You might be interested to know this earthquake today, a 5.1, this same size earthquake or larger happens every year. Every year. On Sunday, May 28th, 2023, in this same area, they had a 5.1 earthquake. On November 14th, last year, 2023, they had another 5.1 earthquake in this same area. So this is the third 5.1 earthquake in a year. But that's not all, folks. There's more. April 15th, 2022, they had another 5.1 earthquake, which means today's earthquake is the 4th in 2 years. The 4th large earthquake in 2 years. We're not done. In 2021, the same location, they had an 8.1 major earthquake here. 3 years ago, July 22nd, 2021. A major 8.1 earthquake struck here. In 2015, 6 years earlier, another major 7.5 earthquake hit here, March 29, 2015. Not to be outdone. The same area, 1986, another 7.2 earthquake. This area here is very earthquake prone. We have large to major earthquakes here every year. Folks, let me zoom in on this location. I want to bring it home. I want to bring it home because we have the same things happening in our own countries. And USGS won't talk about it. I did the research to show today to you this area because I think it's very important. It's very important. This is right next to the mouth of a river feeding out of Papua New Guinea. Look down to the south from this earthquake. There's a small village down there to the south right there. You see homes right there. Also out to the east on the other side of the mouth of the river, more homes. Yes, both areas are small areas of people that live there. It's highly likely that homes that are built here went down with this earthquake. They don't have the technology that we do. This was a 5.1 large earthquake. Damages to homes, buildings of any kind. Infrastructure can also be damaged with a 5.1 large earthquake. Yet that is exactly what happened here. This is exactly what happened here today. This is why I'm showing it to you. Each and every one of us is facing the same thing. Each and every one of us are facing the same thing. Because this agency refuses to put out actual information. They're just not going to do it. They have no intention of doing it. The politicians here in the United States are keeping the emergency managers from doing their jobs. They're keeping the managers of the USGS from doing their jobs. Yes, those managers are emergency managers for the agency. The politicians are stopping them from doing their job. Because if the USGS actually does its job, people will get notified about what's going on. And they will move away from danger areas. Yes, there's some people that can't move or won't move. But there are people that will. There are complete cities and towns that don't even realize the danger they're in. There is one such town over in Washington State, south of Seattle, on the beach. A beach city. A tourist trap. Their police and fire departments don't even have a clue when it comes to what the Cascadia mega thrust earthquake is. They don't know what it is. and they don't have training to deal with it because the agency won't tell them what is going on. Over here to the east, south of Fiji, we have another 4.7 earthquake. This, folks, is a very, very deep earthquake, 532 kilometers deep. This 4.7 earthquake here is going to result in another larger, stronger, shallower earthquake. A much stronger, shallower earthquake, upwards of 6.0. A very strong 6.0 earthquake. And given the situation our Earth is in, it is highly likely that this earthquake that this will generate could happen this weekend. Again, I talked about this last night. 8 CMEs were released from the sun in the last 5 days. These CMEs are hitting Earth today, Friday, and Saturday, which means the plasma radiation has a very good chance of reaching the surface of this Earth. What does that mean? Let me show you what it means. When the plasma radiation hits the Earth, it goes through the magnetosphere and causes a geomagnetic storm in space. It goes through the magnetosphere. Right now, the magnetosphere is very weak. It's not protecting the Earth like it should. The plasma radiation is hitting the surface. All the people on this Earth are being affected by it. But the tectonic plates are also being heated up. All the gunk, the grime, the biological material, the dirt, the rocks, the sand are holding the tectonic plates together. When the plasma radiation reaches the surface, it heats up the tectonic plates. All that gunk and grime that's been holding these plates together turns into a greasy, oily substance, allowing the plates to more freely move. That is how we're going to continue to have more earthquakes, and stronger earthquakes at that. It's happening. It's happening. We've seen 7.0 earthquake hit on Monday in China. In China. Let's go over here to China and take a look at what's happened today. China is continuing to get beat up. These quakes are not small. The aftershocks of the it was a 7.4 originally. It actually was an 8.0, a major 8.0 earthquake. Now, look what's happened just today. These are aftershocks. These are only the aftershocks that the USGS wants us to see. I would dare say there's over 20 earthquakes that have hit this region today. This earthquake right here, an aftershock, is a large 5.3 earthquake. And one of you here in the chat said there was another one just within the last 30 minutes. Not surprising. This is a 5.3 large earthquake, an aftershock. Folks, they've had a lot of rain and some snow here. They've had freezing temperatures. These people are displaced. They've lost their homes. Their homes have been destroyed. Avalanches and landslides have happened. and have destroyed many homes here in this area. Fortunately for them, the population is not dense. It's a sparse population. This is an agricultural region of China. Over 4,000 people lost their homes. Over 143 people been killed, and hundreds more injured. And they're still out trying to find people and rescue people 4 days after the major earthquake. Their own defense force is trying to bring in supplies for the people here in China. I showed you yesterday cranes that have brung in shipping container-like homes that people could live in. They're hoping to build a home area of 4,000 homes to really replace the people that have been displaced by this earthquake. Unreal. Large and moderate quakes hitting this entire area, and it's going to continue. As I reported before in other major earthquake areas, these aftershocks will continue for months, if not years, after that major earthquake. That's what's happened. That's what's going to continue to happen here. Fact. Fact. Let's go over here to Turkey. USGS has chosen this to be put out. Folks, this is another large 5.0 earthquake in Turkey. But where is it? Where is it? This is in the same area where we had an 8.0, 9.0 earthquake last year at this time. And folks, this is not the only earthquake that's happened. It's not the only earthquake that's happened. The fact of the matter is this. There have been 15 earthquakes that have hit here. Earthquakes have hit here. Earlier today, there was a 10 plus number here. They've taken some of those earthquakes down, which is another lie. Anytime these agencies take quakes down, they are omitting evidence. They're omitting data, which makes it a felony. Okay? A 5.0 earthquake. There are 3s and 4s all over this area here. These people in Turkey and Syria are still trying to recover their towns and cities. Their infrastructure was destroyed by that 9.0 earthquake that hit here. For those of you that were not here when I talked about it last year, a great big fissure opened up in the earth. A great big long fissure, 14 miles long, opened up here in Turkey. The bottom of that fissure was 8 stories deep. 8 stories deep. Nearly 100 feet deep. That's like 40 meters. 40 meters deep. 14 miles long. After it happened, we showed you that fissure. They're still not talking about earthquakes in this region. Right here in Greece. Greece. Look at all these earthquakes here in Greece. All over. In the Aegean Sea, all over Greece, and over into the Mediterranean. Earthquakes all over the area. USGS not showing anything at all. Nothing. There's Greece right here. They're not showing anything in this area. The Dokinis Islands got hit as well. East of Crete, we have 4s and 4.9. Out here just east of Crete. We have 3s and 4s all over Greece. Incredible. Why are they not talking about it? They're not saying anything, guys. Over here in central Italy, we have an earthquake, a 2.4 earthquake. This earthquake is in Abruzzo, Italy. Abruzzo, Italy. A 2.4 minor earthquake. That is only what the EMSC is giving us. How about the other earthquakes here in Germany, Austria, and France? They're not showing any earthquakes here either. The EMSC is participating in the blackout of earthquakes. Over here at the border of France and Spain, they're only showing a 2.5 earthquake. What's up with that? This whole area here, okay? This whole area here is full of earthquakes. There's nary a day. There's nary a day when we don't see earthquakes over here in the Strait of Gibraltar area. Yet they're not showing any of them to us. Nothing. Not a thing here. Folks, there's also an earthquake in Morocco. In Morocco today. A 3.5 earthquake. USGS not saying a word about it. Nothing. What's wrong with that picture? What's wrong with that picture? Now, I'm going to briefly shut this down. There are other earthquakes that I want to show you here. I'm not done. I'm just going to briefly shut down this map for a minute. I want to go up to Iceland. Reykjavik, the capital of Iceland, is getting hit with earthquakes. USGS not showing any. The Icelandic Met Office that talks about weather and earthquakes and volcanic activity in Iceland is showing earthquakes in Reykjavik, meaning the magma that we had over in Grindavik area has moved north. There is a possibility that Reykjavik, the capital of Greenland, may have a volcanic eruption, possibly very soon. Okay? I'm just saying. The authorities there in Reykjavik are watching it very closely. But there's a possibility that these earthquakes are magma caused, and they're doing a great lot of research right now about that. I will keep you up to date about that, as I have in the month past. Well, actually 2 months now that have passed, 2.5 months that have passed since things have been crazy over in Iceland. Unreal. Unreal. I'm not going to ever let up. I can't. Too many people's lives are in danger. Too many people's lives are in danger. I'm going to continue to talk about it. We've had earthquakes arise down here in the southern mid-Atlantic fault zone. Today, over here between South America and Africa, we had another 5.4 earthquake here in the mid-Atlantic fault zone here. A large 5.4 earthquake near Ascension Island. More earthquakes are happening here. North of there, also in the mid-Atlantic ridge, is another moderate 4.8 earthquake. Nobody felt these earthquakes because it's in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. The ocean waters are and have absorbed the shock waves of the earthquakes. That is typically what happens. That is typically what happens. Let's go over here to the east side of Africa. This is in the Gulf of Aden. This is another 5.4 earthquake here in the Gulf of Aden. This is also only 10 kilometers deep, 6 miles deep. This 5.4 was just barely offshore here, as you can see. And this is a port city. A port city. People got rocked awake this morning. Okay? A large 5.4 earthquake hit here. And it's right on the fault zone. It's right smack dab on that fault zone. Incredible what we can see. It really is. Over in South America, they're not showing much of anything. They're showing another 5.0 earthquake over here in northern Chile. Oleg, Chile, a 5.0 earthquake, 116 kilometers deep. Still a fairly shallow earthquake. Further south, we've had many earthquakes here in the San Antonio de los Cobres area of Argentina. This is the border area between Chile and Argentina. A 4.7 moderate earthquake, 164 kilometers deep. Still a fairly shallow quake. Unfortunately, there are 18 other earthquakes here that they're not telling anybody about. Heaven forbid. We're showing one earthquake over here in Costa Rica. There are about 5 here in Costa Rica. Unreal. Another earthquake over here in El Salvador. A 4.7. They're not showing but one earthquake over here in southern Mexico. There are about 25 earthquakes here in southern Mexico. This is a 4.3 just barely offshore of southern Mexico. 77 kilometers deep. This earthquake is on the San Andreas Fault. The San Andreas Fault comes all the way down here. It comes down from Northern California, cuts through California, and comes all the way out here through northern Mexico, and then runs along the coast down here to southern Mexico. Out to sea here. This is a 4.6 on the East Pacific Rise. A moderate 4.6 earthquake. 6.2 miles deep. 10 kilometers deep. Olivia just gave us another $20 super chat saying keep up the good work. Thanks, Olivia. That's what we hope to do. We appreciate your super chat today. God bless you for that. While I'm at it, I want to thank Donna Howard and her husband Gregory, who gave us a $40 donation to our PayPal today. Our PayPal is alive and well. You can donate to our PayPal or our Venmo that are locations right at the top of our program description today, right below this video today. Our Venmo and PayPal locations are available for you to donate to our program to keep us on the air. I've been on the air nearly 5 years. April 3rd, it will be 5 years. When I first came on the air, I didn't understand that it costs money to keep a program like this on the air, but it does. It does cost money. Now, for the first time in months, the USGS is actually showing earthquakes in California. They've not been doing this for quite some time. I'm going over to the San Jacinto Fault because this is one of the faults that's located here in Southern California that's capable of a 7.5 earthquake. Down here on the west side of the Salton Sea, on the San Jacinto Fault, a 0.5 magnitude microquake. Right next to it is 0.9 1.0 tremor here. Further west from there, this is a 1.1 tremor here in Ocotillo Wells. Southwest of there, also in Ocotillo Wells, is a 0.8 microquake. Going north, Borrego Springs. We've talked a lot about earthquakes here in Borrego Springs. This is part of the Anza-Borrego Desert. This is a 1.0 tremor. This is a 1.2 tremor. Further north and west, over here is Lake Henshaw, northeast of Escondido, California. Escondido has a population of nearly 200,000 people. This is a 1.3 tremor out here by Lake Henshaw. Up north, this is Idlewild. Idlewild is a ski town and a tourist resort here in the San Bernardino Mountains. This is a 0.4 microquake. 0.4 microquake. To the north, this is Cabazon. This is also considered to be in the Anza-Borrego area. This is in the Anza area, guys. Susceptible to a major earthquake. This is right on top of the San Andreas Fault. Just to the west of the San Andreas Fault is Banning, California. Banning, California. To the north, again, right alongside the San Andreas Fault, Redlands is 0.8 microquake. To the north, San Bernardino. San Bernardino. This is a 4.5 earthquake here from last night. Last night. We're only 1 hour ahead of being 24 hours. Fortunately for everybody here, there are aftershocks of this quake. This still could be a foreshock for a much larger earthquake in this area. To the south here is Loma Linda Medical Center, Loma Linda, California. A 4.5 earthquake hit here yesterday evening. We have had many aftershocks here, and they're still not showing all the aftershocks. This is a 1.3. Just up here to the north, a 1.0. 1.0, 1.1. I'm not going to show you all the aftershocks, you can see them, but there are more than this. We have not seen earthquakes in this area in a very long time. Further to the west, Yorba Linda, California is part of the greater Los Angeles area. Yorba Linda, California is where former President Richard M. Nixon was born, and is also the final resting place of the famous president. Yorba Linda, California with a 1.1 tremor here today. We have earthquakes all up and down the San Andreas Fault. Up here to the north, Vincent, California, a 1.2. A 0.5 microquake here to the south of that, all along the San Andreas Fault. To the north and the east, on another fault zone, the Garlock Fault. Tehachapi, a 1.2 tremor. They're calling this a quarry blast. Folks, we all know what USGS calls a quarry blast or not. Further to the north, Arvin, California, a 1.7 tremor. To the north and east, Bodefish, California. Bodefish, California is a volcanic zone. So that 1.4 tremor is caused by magma down beneath the surface over there. Over here in the Ridgecrest area, look at all these earthquakes here today. Earthquakes, a 1.0 tremor, Ridgecrest, California. Searles Valley, a 0.5 microquake, 1.0 tremor, Ridgecrest, 0.8 microquake, Ridgecrest, a 0.5 microquake, Ridgecrest, and a 1.4 tremor in Searles Valley. To the north, the Koza Volcanic Field, 1.5 in Little Lake, 0.2, 1.9 2.0 earthquake in Kozo Junction. Kozo Junction is a huge volcanic area, huge volcanic field. The problem with that, it's not just magma. It's not just magma. Years ago, former Senator Harry Reid, the late Senator Harry Reid, got Congress to authorize money to build a geothermal power plant here in the Koza Volcanic Field. They done it. There are probably close to 100 boilers here, turbines. They take steam from the Koza Volcanic Field from the upper magma chamber to power turbines in this area to generate electricity for the state of California. That's what's happening. To the north, still Kozo Junction, 1.0 tremor, 1.0 here as well. Out here to the east, also in Kozo Junction, another 1.3 tremor here. It's happening. It's happening. This area is a very dangerous area. We continue to see earthquakes here. You see earthquakes over in the area south and north of San Francisco. They're finally reporting the information here. Up here, north San Andreas Fault, Petrolia, California, a 2.0 earthquake. Just south of there on the San Andreas Fault, a 1.6 tremor here in Redway, California. Let's go over here to the east. I'm going over here to talk about the New Madrid Fault. Just west of there in Aveyah, Oklahoma. This is a 1.5 tremor caused by men drilling into the surface of the crust of the earth that we walk on, pulling oil and gas from deep within the earth here. This is a 1.5 tremor here in Velma, Oklahoma, caused by oil and gas drilling here. This is a fracking quake. Just to the north of there is also another 1.0 in Amber, Oklahoma. Amber is the location where we had a 4.5 earthquake here last week as a result of fracking. Here is the San Andreas. This is the New Madrid fault. Here in New Madrid, Steele, Missouri, a 1.5 tremor. Folks, let's take, for instance, what exactly is going on here on the New Madrid. It's not just a 1.5 tremor at Steele, Missouri. Far more than that. Let me show you what is going on in the New Madrid fault area. I'm not kidding, guys. I'm not kidding at all. There are a lot of earthquakes here. A ton of them. Let's start over in Arkansas, just east of the New Madrid fault. It's on the fault, but it's on the east, excuse me, not on the east, but on the west side of the New Madrid in Arkansas. Tyronza, Arkansas. This is southern Arkansas. Unreal, guys. Look what we have here. Earthquakes. Earthquakes and tremors here. Look at what's going on here. Over here, this is just after 1:15 in the afternoon. A 3.5 earthquake, Tyronza, Arkansas. Did they tell us about this? Heck no. A 3.5 earthquake here in Tyronza, Arkansas. To the right of that, this is after 1:30 this afternoon. This is a 3.0 earthquake. So, folks, let's count the minutes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 1:23 p.m. this afternoon on this red line. A 3.5 earthquake. (1:23). Over here on this blue line, this is 1:37 p.m. this afternoon, a 3.0. And look at all these other tremors and earthquakes. These larger, long vertical lines here are minor earthquakes, 2.0, 2.2 earthquakes. Yes, there's a bunch of tremors here as well. Let's take a look at all the earthquakes here in Arkansas and other places. This is alongside the New Madrid fault. This is the same area where we're going to have major damage when the New Madrid fault finally goes. Let's look at Little Rock, Little River, Arkansas. Look at this. Again, this seismogram is from this afternoon. This morning, very little happened here. Up at the top, this is 12 noon. We go over to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12:08 p.m. this afternoon. A 1.5, 1.6 tremor here. We have other long duration tremor activity here. We have other tremor activity this afternoon down here to the right, after 4 p.m. this afternoon. This is about 4:13 this afternoon on this tremor on the bottom right, on the black line. Little Rock, Little River, Arkansas. Let's take a look at Marktree, Arkansas to the north. Look at this. Marktree, Arkansas this morning. Look what happened this morning. Over on the top right on the black line, we have a long duration tremor here. The tremor here started just before 12:15. About 12:10 we had 1.0 tremors. It built up to about a 1.5 tremor. Over here at 12:15 on the red line on the left, that is a 1.5 tremor here. Okay? On the blue line, below that, at the top, it started off as tremors just after 12:34 p.m. this afternoon. At 12:35 we have a 2.0 earthquake. And we have long duration tremor after that. Now folks, I want to look seriously with this earthquake. Okay? Long duration tremor activity after the 2.0 earthquake happened. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes worth of tremor activity after the main 2.0 earthquake hit. That's a lot of tremor activity. We come down here to 2:15 this afternoon. At 2:15, we started seeing minor tremor activity. That continued until 12:18 p.m. It built up some more for another 50 seconds. Then all of a sudden, we start seeing 2.9, 3.0 earthquakes. Back to back to back. The major part of the earthquakes here, it's called a primary quake. The primary quake lasted over a minute, maybe close to a minute and a half. Then out to the right, we have a secondary quake. That secondary quake lasted 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes. Then we have, after that, a body wave. So we have a 3.0 earthquake here. That, folks, probably was a 3.5, even a 4.0 earthquake. Meaning that the seismograph was turned down. The seismograph was turned down. We have a primary quake lasting just about a minute and a half, and a secondary wave lasting 2 to 3 minutes long. There's a problem there. You see long duration tremor activity happening this morning. Here after 7 a.m. this morning, 7:15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? 7:21 a.m. this morning. We've already had tremor activity. That tremor activity builds up within 30 seconds to a full-blown earthquake. But in this case, the top and the bottom of the earthquake have been cut off by the agency. Again, they don't want us to know the exact magnitude of this quake. Probably closer to a 3.5, 4.0 earthquake. Small to a moderate quake. Out to the right of the primary wave, we have a secondary wave here. That secondary wave lasts over 2 minutes, which tells me that this was at least a 3.5, 4.0 earthquake. Here at Marktree, Arkansas, the people here felt it. There is a population of just over 300 people here at Marktree. It's mostly a farming community. They felt this earthquake. Then, this morning. 10:45 a.m. this morning. 2 minutes worth of tremor activity. Then it kicks into higher gear. 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 tremors. Then a minute and a half later, we have primary waves here on this green line. The top of this earthquake sequence and the bottom of this sequence has been cut off. Again, we probably have close to a 3.5 earthquake. Out to the right of that, we only have maybe 1 minute of secondary wave. So calling this a 3.5 earthquake, that's pretty correct. Marktree, Arkansas this morning. What happened to Marktree, Arkansas this afternoon? The seismic events continued here. Earthquakes this afternoon. 3.0 earthquakes this afternoon. After 12 noon today. After 1 p.m. on the black line. Then we jump down to 1500 hours, which is 3 p.m. Just prior to 3 p.m. over here on the right on the green line. That's where the tremor activity starts building. Then it kicks into high gear with a 2.5 earthquake just here, just prior to 4 p.m. I'm sorry, prior to 3 p.m. Then at 3 p.m. it continues. And that 3 p.m. seismic sequence gets partially hidden by the earthquake on the blue line beneath it. 3.0, 2.9, 2.8, 2.5 earthquakes. All over here. Then, over on the green line beneath that, on the left-hand side it would be 345. Over here we're talking about 355. 355 we have 2s and at least a 3.2, 3.3 earthquake. Marktree, Arkansas this afternoon. The seismic events are still happening. They usually do here at Marktree, Arkansas. It's unreal. It's totally bizarre. It's happening. Let's go over to Missouri, just north of Arkansas. Guam, Missouri here. Look at this. Guam, Missouri. We're showing minor earthquake activity here. Some of it a little long duration here. On the earthquake fault. All up and down the New Madrid fault. I've been talking to all of you about what's going on here on the New Madrid. Even up to a year or so ago, all we were seeing is tremors, and then a year ago, minor earthquakes. Now things have really kicked into gear. It's not just tremors. It's not just tremors here. I've been showing you 3.0, 3.9 earthquakes, small earthquakes. 4.0 possibly here in Marktree, Arkansas today. 4.0 is considered to be a moderate earthquake. USGS not showing these. They're not showing any of these. Yet I'm showing you the data that says that they happen. I'm showing you the data sets that say these earthquakes did happen. And they continue happening up and down the fault. Let's go up to Illinois. The New Madrid Fault goes from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up to the Great Lakes. This is Fairfield, Illinois. Look at the tremors and earthquakes. Earthquakes here are minor earthquakes. 2.0 to 2.5 earthquakes here, as well as a lot of tremors here. Unreal, guys. Was this happening a year ago? Very little. Just minor tremors, that's all. That's all that was happening here in Illinois, and Indiana for that matter. Unreal, guys. Fairfield, Illinois, this afternoon. The morning hour seismogram doesn't tell the whole story. Earthquakes continue to happen well into the afternoon hours, late afternoon, after 4 o'clock. Again, 2.0, 2.5 earthquakes, and a bunch of tremors, lots of tremors. Okay? Miss Elise says, pray if you live in these areas. Ask if you should leave. I will never tell you to leave. I will never tell you to leave. That must be a personal decision. That particular decision must be yours and yours alone. I am going to give you the information. I'm going to continue to give you the information, but I'm not going to tell you to leave. Okay? It's happening. It's definitely happening. It's too bad that they don't want to be honest with anybody. It's sad. Now let's go over to the east side of the fault, Tennessee. Tiptonville, Tennessee has been very active during the past 2 weeks. It continues. Look at the earthquake activity this morning here at Tiptonville, Tennessee. Yes, we've had continuous 3.0, 3.5 small earthquake activity. 3.0 to 3.9 are considered to be small earthquakes. 3.2 to 3.9 you're going to feel. People living here in Tiptonville are going to feel it. You see it here. This was this morning, guys. Look at that. The seismic activity started at midnight. You can see it here. It kicked into gear just about 3 a.m. this morning, and it continued for about 2 hours. Then this afternoon, we have minor earthquake activity here. That is a lot of activity. This is a ton of activity. I'd be lying to tell you that this is nothing. It is not nothing. This is serious seismic activity here in Tennessee. And that's not all, folks. There's more. There's more. I want to take you out to the East Coast now. I want to show you what is happening in Virginia. Then I'll go back to Tennessee in a few minutes. I want to show you what is going on. Let's go over to West Virginia. This is over on the Craton. This is the edge of the plate on the East Coast. This is the Eastern Continental Divide. West Virginia. Look at the 3.4, 3.2, 3.3 earthquakes hitting here this morning. Hitting here this morning. Look at that. These quakes hit starting after 3 a.m. this morning. Then they kicked into high gear after 3:15 this morning. You can see it here. At about 1, 2, 3, 4, at 3:19 a.m. 3:19 a.m. we have a full-blown 3.0, 3.2 earthquake. And about every 30 to 45 seconds, another earthquake. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 earthquakes. The last 3 are sequences of quakes because those earthquakes happen back to back to back. Then we had some minor earthquake and tremor activity after that. Incredible. This is the East Coast. This is the East Coast of the United States. What's causing this? This is not fault lines necessarily. Although the craton or the continental divide could be considered a fault zone. Yes, it could. But a lot more is playing into this than that. The seismic energy that you're seeing is a direct result of the Mid-Atlantic fault spreading. The Mid-Atlantic Ocean fault zone at the bottom of the ocean in the Atlantic, it's expanding. That expansion is pushing the North American plate, the East Coast of the United States. It's pushing the North American plate, Canada and the United States, in a south-southwesterly direction. That's what we see happening here. This is exactly what we're seeing happening here. East Coast. Let's go just a little bit more east. Let me show you what's going on in Virginia, just to the west. Accomack, Virginia. Look at this. Tremor activity here. Accomack, Virginia, this is nothing but tremor activity. Accomack, Virginia this afternoon. More tremor activity. This is ongoing tremor activity here, happening every day. Anybody that says nothing's going on, they have blinders on. Corbin, Virginia. Look at this. This is tremor activity, and it's a bit accelerated. Larger tremors here. That was this morning. Corbin, Virginia this afternoon. More tremors. It doesn't just happen in the mornings or the afternoons. This is constantly happening. It lets up for a few minutes and continues. And when it lets up, all you have are microquake activity. But then the tremors kick in again. It's going, guys. It's going. Let's take a look at Mineral, Virginia. Here in Mineral, Virginia, again, this is the continental divide, the edge of the craton on the East Coast. Look at the earthquakes here. Yes, we're having tremors. It's very apparent that there are tremors here. But look at the larger seismic events. These are earthquakes. 3.2 earthquake just after 4:02 a.m. this morning. A 3.2 earthquake. And there's multiple earthquakes. It's not just one. It's 2 to 3 earthquakes that happen back to back to back. Going down here after 7:30 a.m. this morning on the blue line. This, folks, is a 2.8, 2.9 earthquake. Again, multiple earthquakes back to back, at least 2 of them. There are a number of tremors here as well. Folks, this is Mineral, Virginia. Middle Virginia. Look at this afternoon. Folks, this afternoon, 12:48 p.m. this afternoon. This is another multiple earthquake. Another multiple 3.0 earthquake. We had tremors before and tremors after. Then we jump down here to 3:43 p.m. this afternoon. This is it looks like a 2.7, 2.8 earthquake on the blue line to the right. There's also some green tremor activity here as well. The seismicity is increasing, guys. West Virginia and Virginia getting hit. Let's jump south to North Carolina. The entire East Coast is getting hit. Roper, North Carolina, which is the northeast coast of North Carolina. Roper, North Carolina. We have seen earthquakes here. All we're seeing here in Roper, North Carolina today is tremor activity. Except for over here on the green line here. This is this afternoon, or this, excuse me, this isn't this afternoon, this is this morning. 10:45 this morning. This is a 2.0 earthquake. Tremors before and after that. Okay? Roper, North Carolina this morning. Let's look at Roper this afternoon. Look what happened this afternoon. Yes, the tremors continued. But on the blue line here, on the left-hand side, we have a bunch of tremors, don't we? But over here to the right, this is 4:43 a.m., excuse me, 4:43 p.m. this afternoon. These are 3.0 earthquakes, some of them back to back to back. This 3.0 quake sequence lasted just about a minute and 10 seconds. After that sequence was over, we had a secondary wave, a secondary quake sequence. That quake sequence also continued for another minute and a half after that, which means this might have been larger than a 3.0. 3.2, 3.4 earthquakes. Okay? That's a lot of earthquake activity here in North Carolina. Yesterday we had a lot more here in North Carolina. Now I want to go over, there is some activity here in South Carolina. This is Blacksburg, South Carolina. Folks, this is Kings Mountain. This is a volcano. This is a volcano, guys. Let me enlarge this so you can see what we're talking about here. This is this afternoon. This morning, nothing happened. Just some very minor tremor activity. 1.0 tremors, that's it. This afternoon, we had a lot more than that. Yes, we're having tremor activity, but you're still seeing some 3.2 earthquakes happening here. This 3.2 earthquake happened at approximately 1:40 p.m. this afternoon. A 3.2, 3.3 earthquake. Then later, after 15:43 p.m. this afternoon. Here we have a 2.9, 3.0 earthquake again. This is a volcano in South Carolina. Folks, this is very minor compared to what's been happening here this week. Okay? If you talk to our family members here in South Carolina, this is nothing. The seismic energy here at Blacksburg, South Carolina, Kings Mountain volcano, has been crazy both day and night and morning, all day long. These earthquakes have been happening, which means, folks, this volcano bears watching. This is on the East Coast. We could have a volcanic eruption on the East Coast. Do you even think that USGS is talking about this? Heck no. They're not showing this. They don't give a flying rat's frosty keister. They're not telling anybody what is going on. Again, the Atlantic fault is pushing the North American continent, Canada, and the United States in a south-southwesterly direction. Some of this activity is just that. The Atlantic plate pushing the North American plate. But this is a volcano. This is a volcano, guys. We should be very concerned. I think we should be very, very concerned. One last showing here in South Carolina. Over in central South Carolina, Sumter, South Carolina. Look at this morning. This is pretty typical of Sumter, South Carolina. Yes, we are seeing minor earthquakes. We are seeing full-blown 3.0 earthquakes here. This is a lot of seismic activity. This is also along the Craton in South Carolina. Sumter is just east of Lugoff and Elgin, South Carolina, where we've had even more seismic activity as of late. The last year or so in Elgin and Lugoff, we've had a ton of seismic activity. This is what's going on just east of there. You're seeing it here. Even 3.0 earthquakes here. Do you think the media is talking about this? Heck no. USGS is not telling them. USGS is not telling them. Does everybody need to know about it? Oh, yes, they do. Absolutely, yes, they do. Let me show you Sumter, South Carolina this afternoon. It's a lot less this afternoon. We still had a 2.0 earthquake at 12:01 p.m. this afternoon. The rest of this is all tremor activity this afternoon. This still is something that everybody needs to see. Again, one more one more seismogram I want to show you. This is this afternoon at Tiptonville, Tennessee. Look at that. Seismic activity rocking Tiptonville, just like this morning. Not quite as big as this morning, but it is still rocking Tiptonville. Is USGS talking about this? No. No, they're not. They showed one lousy earthquake on the USGS map, a tremor. They're not showing this. The entire New Madrid fault is moving. The entire New Madrid fault is moving. Do you think people should know about it? Oh, yes, they should. because the USGS is not going to tell you. They're not going to tell your friends. They're not going to tell your family. They don't care whether anybody dies here. I spent a good period of one program last week giving you a history of the new Madrid fault, just to let you know what's going to happen here. And yes, it's going to happen. It's a fact. It's a fact you can take to the bank. You can take to the bank, ladies and gentlemen. I promise you. Things are happening. You need to be aware of this. You need to be aware of it. Miss Elise is saying that Papua New Guinea just had a 5.4 earthquake now. A large 5.4 earthquake. Folks, I just told you what's been happening at Papua New Guinea. And another 5.4 this evening. It's incredible, guys. It's incredible. The entire area is moving. The entire Earth, all of the tectonic plates around the world are moving. There is not one plate that's not moving. Yes, we only showed you one earthquake down in the south of Fiji. Sorry, USGS didn't show it. That's because they are full of crap. They're full of crap. Tonga is moving. Fiji, the Solomon Islands, Vanuatu. They are not showing any earthquakes in New Zealand, but we know there are earthquakes there. I could go over here on my device and show you more earthquakes happening in New Zealand as well, and up in Alaska. Usually we have 60 earthquakes every day in Alaska. They're not showing that many earthquakes right now. Hardly any at all. Just a couple of threes around Denali. And another 3.4 just north of Valdese, Alaska. Incredible. Incredible. They don't think it's necessary to be honest with anybody. The whole earth is moving. The whole earth is moving. Now, folks, Richard Rogers is here saying, I had a feeling after 2020 Alaska earthquake. Yes, absolutely. It's not over. That was a major earthquake. We had 7.1. We had 7.2. We had 7.8 and an 8.7 earthquake. An 8.7 earthquake. In 2019, we had a 7.1 in Anchorage. Folks, it's not over. It's going to hit in Alaska. That seismic energy is going to go down around and go south into the Cascadia seismic zone. Then look out. Look out. In 2019, December 23rd, 2019, we had 4 7.2 earthquakes off the northwest ocean area off of northwest Vancouver Island. 4 7.2 earthquakes. We thought that the Cascadia earthquake was going to come on Christmas Eve. It wasn't December 23rd, it was December 24th. We thought the Cascadia earthquake was going to happen on Christmas Eve. We prayed like I have never prayed before, asking the Lord not to have that earthquake happen on Christmas Eve. That was in 2019. We still have not had a major earthquake on the Cascadia fault zone. It's coming. It's coming. We've had major earthquakes in the Philippines. John Francis says he was in the Philippines at that time. We've had major earthquakes in the Philippines at that time too. Tearing apart the big island of the Philippines. Mindanao, Philippines. Incredible. Anyway, folks, it's the end of the program. At the end of our programs, I'd like to end with a devotional. I want to talk about happiness. Each and every one of us is searching for happiness. We all try to find our own happily ever after. All you have to do is trust. Trust in your Heavenly Father. Trust in Him enough to follow His plan. Trust in Him enough to follow His plan. Folks, it's not just that. It's putting on the full armor of God. Putting on the full armor of God. This picture talks about the church. People that believe in Christ but do nothing about it. The church is not an audience to be entertained. The church, the members of the Lord's kingdom here on this earth, are an army to be trained and empowered. To be trained and empowered. Those of us that are searching for happiness may find happiness at some point in our lives. We can find true and lasting happiness when we seek to follow Jesus Christ. If you're searching for happiness in this life and eternal life with God the Father and His Son Jesus Christ hereafter, then I would exhort all of us to find the way, the truth, and the life in Him, in Jesus Christ. And finding there is a greater happiness and peace and rest for each one of us. I in my life have sought for the blessings of the Father, and the right whereunto I should be ordained to administer the same, having been myself a follower of righteousness. This is our father Abraham talking to us. And finding there was greater happiness and peace and rest for me, I sought for the blessings of the fathers, and the right whereunto I should be ordained to administer the same, having been myself a follower of righteousness. Brothers and sisters, if you want to truly find happiness in your life, it's by and through only Jesus Christ, our Savior. We must become an army of trained followers of Christ. We must be trained and we must be empowered. We must be trained and we must be empowered to put out the Lord's mission and put out His message. May God bless us to that end. May God bless us and help us that we will truly understand why we are here on this earth. Yes, I get choked up at times because I believe this. I know it to be true. It's not just a belief. I know it to be true. And you also can receive that testimony. You can also receive that testimony of Jesus Christ. Get down on your knees and pray. Get down on your knees and ask Heavenly Father to bless you. And He will. I know that for a fact. May God bless each and every one of us to this end. May God bless each and every one of us to this end. Folks, if anything else happens tonight, we will be back on the air to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. Tomorrow evening, just after 6 p.m., we will be back on the air tomorrow to talk about any other earthquakes that have happened, anything that's happened that might affect our lives. Tomorrow night, I promised that we will talk about emergency plans and what emergency plans mean to each and every one of us. What we need to do to put together an emergency plan. Yes, I will drag my plan down off the shelf and I will share it again with you. We'll also talk about emergency kits and what you need to do. May God bless you this night and be with you always. God be with you until we meet again. That's my prayer each and every day for each one of us. God be with you until we meet again. We will see you on the other side. Have a great night, folks. I love you very much, and God does love you. Good night, everybody. Much love. We'll see you on the other side. Good night, guys.